Can anybody tell me why this is still okay?
Meet Marissa Rothenberger, a male pitcher absolutely dominating girls softball in Champlin, Minnesota.
And the pitch. Rothenberger back in the fifth. Swing and a miss here first. 0-2 pitch. Strike three.
Rothenberger, at 6 feet tall, appears to tower over his female competition. In this game on May 6, 2025, he threw 7 strikeouts and shut out the opposing team. Apparently, Rothenberger's batting against average is .128, meaning opposing girl players only hit 12% of his pitches, which is considerably better than elite MLB players. He recently had an absurd 14 strikeouts in a single game. Wow. What was really amazing was listening to the dense male announcers as they gush about Rothenberger's wingspan and how hard he throws it.
See how she whips it? The long arms is just such an advantage.
Wow.
The whip action of that long arm for Rothenberger.
He's a boy, guys. Get it? He's male. And it's cheating. Stop gushing.
Yes,
the male coach who coaches Rothenberger was gushing too.
The pitchers do a phenomenal job. We have Marissa Rothenberger. They keep us in every game.
What's not to like about having a male ringer on the team? Except it's cheating, of course. Rothenberger is apparently hoping to get recruited onto a women's softball team in college somewhere, and I found his profile on recruiting sites. But hopefully this helps expose the cheater before he can cheat any more girls out of their opportunities, scholarships, and victories.
Rights opinion stating the Minnesota State High School League would violate the Minnesota human right. Last week, Attorney General Keith Ellison came out with a legal opinion stating the Minnesota State High School League would violate the Minnesota Human Rights Act by complying with the order. This week, the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter to both Ellison and the MSHSL head saying the DOJ stands ready to sue states and that Minnesota should be on notice.
So this whole subject is nothing new, and there's a lot to unpack. I know there's a lot of differing opinions on this whole issue. I truly believe overall the majority of people in this country, I mean a large majority, are against this. And let me just preface this before I even get started. This is not about being homophobic, being against transgender, or people that identify as whatever they want to identify as. I'm totally cool with that. You know, you're going to be the one that's going to have to answer to God one day, just like I'm going to have to answer to God for my choices. So all we can do is pray for people who, for whatever reason, feel that they are trapped in the wrong body. And that's a whole nother story that we're not even going to get into as far as like where that even comes from, and people believing they're born that way, yada, yada, yada. Again, I literally don't believe you're born that way. But again, a story for another video. The point I'm trying to make is, if you choose to live your life this way, that's on you, okay? A lot of people think that people that look at this issue the way I choose to look at this issue, that we're haters, that we're bigots, that we're trying to hold down the transgender community. Like I said, as long as you're not hurting anybody but yourself, when you start trying to have drag queen story hours where you're involving young children, then I have a problem with that, where you're trying to corrupt their young minds, or when you're trying to infiltrate a sport dominated by the opposite sex. Science has proven it again and again and again that men are genetically different than women. It's sad that we even have to say that. The point I'm trying to make is men are stronger. And if you want to even go back even farther than that, let's go back into the Bible. The Bible says to treat your wives as the weaker vessel. So even in the Bible, it's telling us that the wife is the weaker vessel. Now, there are some women that have some strength and that take steroids and do some of the things that they can do to be strong. But God did not design women to bear that burden. So when you have men, biological men, okay, just because you identify as the opposite sex, you don't have the DNA to match that sex. I don't care if you want to identify as a cat or a dog or a zebra. You do not have that DNA. That is not the way God designed you. Remember this. I say this a lot in my videos because it's true. God is a God of order, not a God of chaos. Okay, so if he's a God of order, everything in this universe is fine-tuned on a razor's edge. Okay, even our genetics, period. You can argue till the cows come home. It's sad that we live in a world now where people think this behavior is acceptable. I have a problem with men playing in women's sports and even women playing in men's sports because we are genetically different. Okay? The punishment that men take in a football game, women were not designed to take that punishment, and vice versa. And you know what's funny? I guarantee you, if this transgender man, Marissa, was to be in any male-dominated sports, I guarantee you he would never be on a podium winning a award, a trophy for being the top in his class. Of course, he can go into these different sports and dominate because, again, he is made up that way. Did you hear him say that this person is over 6 feet tall, that they tower over all the women? And here's the crazy thing. I wouldn't even allow my daughter to play on a team where this was going on. It just bothers me. You know, with the strength that he has genetically, what if that ball hits one of those young girls in the head? We've already seen an incident where a soccer player or a volleyball player, there was a transgender male that was spiking the ball and it hit her in the face and it broke her orbital bone, which is this bone right here that goes around your eye socket. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed. Now, also let me preface it by saying this. This is in Minnesota, where Tim Walz is the governor, the same governor that wants to put tampons in boys' bathrooms. So that tells you the state that we're dealing with in this case. And as you saw here with Pam Bondi, I hope she does go after these people that are not complying with Donald Trump's order. It's actually a sad, it's a sad time in our country. It's a sad time in humanity. You know, I always make a lot of biblical references because I am a Christian. And it's funny how all this stuff is written about in the Bible. I mean, I'm talking about a collection of books that was written over 2,000 years ago. And it says in that book that in the last days, men will be lovers of themselves, that they will be led astray, and that they will be deceived. It tells us to be on guard, not to be deceived. And I hate to say it, but this Marissa is deceived. Now, I don't know what happened in this young man's life before he, for whatever reason, felt he identified as a woman. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I can almost probably paint you the picture. This young boy was probably either molested as a young boy by a family member or a neighbor, maybe a babysitter, somebody in school. And I can almost guarantee you, if you were to look in their history, dad, a strong father, is not a part of this young man's life. Prove me wrong. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Because you got some jacked up fathers out there too. But the point I'm trying to make is any father worth his salt would not allow this to happen in his child's life. So, and there's just a little bit of what I was talking about earlier where I said I didn't want to go down that road because there's a lot to be said in that case. But you're not just born, oh, I'm in the wrong body. What people don't realize is that things happen to us in our childhood, whether we're groomed for something. And I've heard many a story and seen many of examples of people that believe they were born gay or believe they were born in the wrong body. And when you start digging deep and looking in their history, you find a lot of these issues that I was talking about, whether it's dad not being in the home, this young person being molested, or just the influences around that person is kind of pushing them in that direction. And the child, a lot of times, is none the wiser. I hate to say it. It's just reality. So, again, I don't know where you stand on this issue. I am 100% against it. I don't believe that someone trying to pass themselves off as the opposite sex should be allowed to participate in that sport. It's never been an issue in this country up until the last 5+ years, and I don't believe it should be an issue now. I'm glad that we have a president that publicly stated we will have two genders, that publicly stated that men will not be allowed to compete in women's sports. It's wrong and it's cheating. And what's sad is I don't understand why nobody has a problem with it. And I'm just watching that video, looking at the young girls playing with this person. And again, I don't beat them up because the way society is, they just learn to accept it. But I'm really surprised that the parents of these children would let them even play on the team. Again, state of Minnesota, if it was my child, she wouldn't be on that team. We'd find another private league or somewhere else for her to play. Even if we had to leave the state, we would leave the state. And I know easier said than done, right? But anyway, make sure you drop your comments in the comment section. You can disagree with me. I'm a big boy. I can take it. The bottom line is, my personal opinion is this needs to change. This needs to stop. And people need to be held accountable if they're violating these executive orders that have been put in place since the new Trump presidency. So anyway, I love you guys. Make sure you like this video if you haven't done so already. Also subscribe to the channel. I love you guys, and I will check you on the next one. Later.